historic. Joining us now to talk about the House vote and all the big political news, not only in Washington but here in Chicago, political analyst Paul Lisnek. Paul,
hi guys.
How you doing?
I am good. Busy week.
It has been a busy week. Let's start with McCarthy trying after so many failed attempts. It appears that he may have the vote this time tonight. I have to ask, what kind of victory is he going to have, given all the concessions that he has had to make? What will policies look like? How will things get legislated?
Well, first of all, let me answer that, Ray, but let me also answer, if I may, how he gets there, because there's 6 people against him. He needs to turn 2 of them. So either 2 people of those really tight people who don't like him go for him.
That are going to vote present.
That will vote yes. That's one way to get there. Another way is that one votes yes and another one votes president. They're thinking Lauren Boebert might do that. And the third way is that 3 of them, you need 3 to vote present, because it has to do with majority and you need 3 to bring that number down and all of that. As far as what kind of speaker he will be, to be honest with you, he has negotiated away so much of his role. He's agreed to put 3 members of the Freedom Caucus on the Rules Committee. And that's before anything comes to the floor, it goes through rules. So the kinds of changes and input and control that he's giving this small group of the Freedom Caucus, it's really stunning. It's one of the reasons I think he will get it this time around, because if it were to go to somebody else like Steve Scalise, that person could get up and say, I'm not making the deal that Kevin McCarthy did. So this is actually the best deal the Freedom Caucus could get. They should have nominated Skilling. It would have been done in 5 minutes and we'd be all set.
Well, so does this make him the weakest Speaker of the House on record?
Well, you know, he'll say no. I mean, it remains to be seen. But he clearly will be. I think it will be a short-lived term, because everything he's there, you know, he's given the Freedom Caucus, or actually anybody in the House, the right. One person can say, I vote to, it's called vacate the chair, which is withdraw him, get him out. Anybody can do it. This could be a daily routine if they wanted it to be. But he's going to have to live by the Denny Hastert rule, if you remember that, which is always have the majority of the majority before you move forward with the vote. And so if he can keep the majority of his overall caucus, then even though there might be constant calls for his removal, he'll survive those votes when they happen.
Do you want to keep talking about this, or you want to move on? Because we can talk about what's happening at the Illinois State House as well, but I want to make sure you didn't have any more points.
No, I mean, I think
we're watching the nominating process
exactly,
right now.
And I think what we're seeing right now is they're still nominating at this point Hakeem Jeffries. So I think one tell will be, and we're just not there yet, whether anybody else gets nominated, which shows there's still a faction. I'm going to guess that there will not be anybody else. It's the 2 of them, and that's why I don't know if we'll see the end while we're on. But
in either case, it's been an amazing civics lesson.
Well, without question. And look, you know, a lot of the Republicans, even, you know, Marjorie Taylor Greene, let's get going. And he has greenlighted. Kevin McCarthy has already greenlighted all the investigations we've been hearing about. Hunter Biden, he has green-lighted her proceeding with impeachment of Joe Biden, a lot of cabinet members. So this is where things are headed. And, you know, for better, listen, supporters of the president, supporters of the Freedom Caucus are going to be thrilled about that. And Democrats will be frustrated every step of the way.
We'll keep watching it. Let's put the focus on Springfield now. And big news that came out of the House was passing gun legislation, strengthening abortion rights here. We will see what happens in the Senate, but my question to you is, even if the Senate passes it, what happens with the court system where a lot gets tied up?
Yeah, that's a great, for both of those bills, abortion and guns. And the bottom line is this, it probably will get through. You know, the Senate is going to convene tomorrow morning, but Majority Leader Don Harmon's mother died, so they're going to leave at noon. They're going to come back
on
later
Sunday,
on Sunday and continue. And we'll and I guarantee you, Governor Pritzker, who was on the floor last night of the House trying to get this assault weapon bill passed,
doesn't do that very often.
Doesn't do that very often. I think he wants to be able to tout this as an accomplishment during his inauguration on Monday. So I think you're going to see a lot of pressure to get it done by Monday. It absolutely will be taken to the courts. Both these bills will go to the courts. Democrats have on the House level negotiated. They've kept the age at 18. They wanted to move it to 21. The cartridges, they wanted to move it to 12. They kept it at 10. They've done some things, and so we'll talk about this. But I've got the head Republican senator on my show Sunday morning in the middle of all this, and we're going to find out what, if anything, these Republicans can live with in terms of that legislation.
Okay, we went national, state, now we go city.
Yeah.
Lori, number 4.
the polls are fascinating, Jackie. There's been about
Mayor's
four,
race.
The mayor's race. The 4 polls that we've been seeing, she's not leading in any of them. So the first one, she was coming in third behind Vallis and Chewy, and remember the top 2 are the runoff. Then there was one where she came in third behind Brandon Johnson, Chewy and Vallis. And now this new one, sponsored by Cranes, comes out, puts her in 4th position with Chewy and
Brandon, and Vallis.
Yeah. 2 of them getting 25% and Vallis at 15%, and then Lightfoot at 11%. Here's another difference you got to pay attention to. They're on the air now. You know, we talked about this a week or 2 ago, and I was saying Lightfoot is the only person on the air. Well, now so is Vallis. Now so is Johnson. So they're using their money. They're getting on the air, and it's going to make it, I think, a lot tougher for Lori Lightfoot going forward. But the polls are now. Listen, she would tell you that around this time 4 years ago, she was 3% in the polls.
It's true.
But it's not. There was also, I should say, in fairness to her and Willie Wilson, who was very upset, that challenge to that last poll was that apparently 74% of the respondents were white, and both of them are saying this just isn't fair in terms of the reporting.
Outgoing Secretary of State on the show Sunday.
He'll be doing the final interview that he will give as Secretary of State. Jesse White will be with me, and also, as I kind of tagged a little bit, Senator John Curran, who is the minority leader of the Republican Senate, he's going to join me in the middle of all this discussion. He's going to take a break and let us know what's going on in Springfield and what they'll get through.
What a week.
Thank you, guys. Enjoy the weekend.
All right, you
Tune
too.
in Sunday morning at 9, Jackie.
Yes, sir.